Welcome and thank you for joining me today. My name is Wiggin and this is Wiggin Official. One of the main things that I would like to talk about briefly is financial freedom. I think that's something that everyone desires, whether you are consciously thinking about it or unconsciously thinking about it. Everyone works a job mainly because they want to be able to provide for themselves, not necessarily because they love the job. While you have a lot of people that have this in place, they are doing what they love, something that they enjoy. But on a grand general scale, this is not so for everyone. And so one of the things that I like to talk about is trying to work a 9 to 5, and on the side, if you can, try to come up with some sort of a plan where you can eventually create a liquidated self-income, or you can generate some kind of a passive income so you can eventually become financially stable enough to wean yourself off of that 9 to 5 in order to do actually what you want to do. And so the basic of what it really comes down to, which is where I want to start from, and the things that I like to talk about specifically is self. And I mainly put the self in red writing to emphasize the importance of what it means to take accountability, because that's where it naturally starts, at self, right? You have to take yourself accountability to really understand where the foundation is going to start from. If you don't take yourself accountability, then you're going to always be looking outwardly. You're going to be pointing the finger to whether it be to family, friends, spouse, or a business, some corporation, the government, something outside of you. And yes, you can always do that, right? But at the end of the day, it's gonna always come back to you. Wherein, if you take the time out and you can take the time to really self-evaluate and take that self-accountability, you can start from there in creating a foundation. The next one that I have is self-responsibility, which obviously goes hand in hand with taking self-accountability. The responsibility is you recognizing and realizing or acknowledging that you are responsible for all the outcome that life has to offer, and all the things that is going to come within your life is mainly your responsibility. And so it's always good to bring it back to self, because that's where we always start from, right? If you're not talking about you, then who or what is it all for? It always comes back to self-responsibility. It's a part of the foundation. That's the reason why I started out with first accountability, and then now self-responsibility, which we all need to take the time to realize or acknowledge that we need to be responsible. And that starts from self. Then the next one is self-discipline. So it's not always one of the easiest thing to do, but it's one of the acknowledgement that you need to come to terms with, that in order for you to create the life that you want, you're going to have to start creating habits and break away from the vices or the things that you are addicted to, or you don't really have control over, or you no longer have control of. So the self-discipline, not everyone can get to that point, because it oftentimes takes a lot of work, especially when you're not used to doing things or taking the accountability or the responsibility to do things for yourself. You now have to rely on yourself. So the discipline, you can start from the simplest the simplest thing, whether it's cut down on the kind of music that you listen to, or your time management in terms of watching less of TV shows or movies. These are just simple things before you can start adding on the harder things, right? These are small examples, the self-discipline, and I'm kind of trying to break it down like this so it doesn't seem that hard of a goal for you to get to, or for anyone to get to. Self-discipline, that covers a large spectrum when it comes to self-discipline. It's one of the concrete foundations that will help you to get to that financial stability, that financial freedom that we all want. You have to be disciplined to be able to save money, or to not overspend, or to be able to say no or yes to things. So the discipline is really a concrete foundation that we all need. It's not easy, but you take small steps in increments. Now, the next one that I had was self-thought if necessary. And so when I say that, it's based on the financial literacy. And I put self-thought if necessary because not everyone is going to go out their way to teach you what is it that you need to know, how or what it is to be financially knowledgeable. And that's where the literacy comes in. It's just another word for it. To have the understanding of what and why and where. You won't really get the basics or the fundamentals in school, not unless you moved on to the more advanced curriculums of university or colleges, and this is something that you're majoring in. You may find it other ways, like little increments of it, but the basics, in terms of where we should be getting the financial teachings coming from small grade, kindergarten, not kindergarten obviously, but coming as you're going through each stage of life and through each learning institutions. This is something that should have been taught right throughout, because this is what you're coming out in everyday life to deal with. So when you don't get that, or those around you don't have that kind of a knowledge, or this is not something that they've been taught or used to, you now have to bring it back to yourself once you realize that this is something that you need and this is something that's going to benefit you. So if necessary, you need to teach yourself or seek learning. So you need to teach yourself if necessary, because financial literacy, it's what's going to teach you how to manage your time, your money, and how to ultimately gather that money and be able to maintain that money. It's a lack of education, and you need to teach yourself if you need it. Makes no sense waiting on anyone to teach you, or to continue to point the finger or to blame anyone. Yes, that exists, and that's easy to do, but what good is it going to do you, right? You need to get stable and financially stable now, and the way to do that is to bring back the responsibility to yourself and get started. The next one that I have is self-acceptance. And I say that in relation to bad company corrupts good character. And the self-acceptance comes with, it also goes right back to the self-thought if necessary, hand in hand, where you have to teach yourself. The self-acceptance really is that if you take the time out to really self-evaluate and you've teach yourself and you've gotten yourself in wanting to do all the things that's best for you, the acceptance comes in when you realize that not everyone is going to want the same thing that you want. Not everyone is on the same frequency or wavelength that you're on. Or even if you're not entirely there, if this is something that you're working towards, the self-acceptance comes in wherein you now have to come to the realization that, okay, I haven't been taught, nothing has been passed down to me, no one is going to give this to me. So you now have to accept the fact that this is the way things are, it's the way the world is. All the responsibility is now on me. You know, accept that. Now, the part where bad company corrupts good character comes in is, I know it's usually a general statement based on people, because bad company, that's what is usually attached to, which is one of the main things. Yes, bad company, that mainly includes people, but also that includes your own thought, your environment, the things that you listen to and the things that you watch. Also a wide variety of other things, but these are the basics of what will be the bad company that will corrupt the good character or the good future that you're trying to get to. So if you take the time out and you've removed the vices, you've removed all of the addictions, if you have any, or the bad habits, you need to come to the acceptance that you can no longer listen to certain things, you can no longer watch certain things, you can no longer accept or hang out with certain kind of people if they're not aspiring to the same things that you're aspiring to. Also, a major thing that majority of people overlook is your own self-thought and the way you think. You're your own bad company. A lot of people may not want to accept or even come to the realization that this is actually happening. But if you can take the time to realize that, yes, I am my own bad company, and that may be what's hindering me. That is a major one for a lot of people. And a big thing a lot of people also don't realize is that a lot of the thoughts that you have throughout and on a daily basis may not necessarily be yours. That coming from the things that you watch and listen to or hear other people talking about. Now, when was the last time you've asked yourself that, have you think to yourself, when was the last time that I have an original thought or an organic thought? Because most of the thought that we think each day is coming from somewhere or something else. It's not necessarily your own. So this is like a lot of the time you'll see a lot of people, they'll be influenced from the things that they see, the things that they hear, and even other people. And you know, sometimes, let's, for an example, you have a good friend, right? And they are easily swayed by what someone else said. And instead of them coming and asking you, which is the other friend, they get easily swayed by what someone else said. So looking at that, what you can take from that is that this person is not really as self-aware or self-understanding as they think they are. Most people think they are themselves 100%, but they really are not. Because why would you listen to someone else instead of thinking for yourself? It's like, wait a minute. This is my best friend. I've never known them to be like this. I've never seen them to be like this. So why would I let something else or someone else sway me? Or in fact, why don't I take the time out to go verify with this person that what you're saying is actually true? How I know you're not swaying me, right? It's just like when you listen to some kind of a music or even watching a TV show. A lot of the time you're influenced by that. This is not who you are. But without your own self-identity or your own organic way of thinking, you will be easily swayed by this. You're even taking on the thoughts and their characters or even their attributes. And a lot of the time, you may take that onto yourself, and now even acting out like that. It's like taking on another character, right? A lot of the time you listen to the music and you are taking that personally and incorporating that into your own person, your own life, when this is not really who you are. So these are some things which comes back to, so I just want to kind of break before I kind of go off and start explaining a lot more. This really comes back to self-acceptance. Now, another one that I have here is self-actualization. This is a good one, right? These are steps and steps and steps. Self-actualization. So when you get to the point of you've gone through the accountability, the responsibility, you have taken the steps to be disciplined enough, you have teaching yourself through the self-thought if necessary, you've come to the acceptance that, okay, this is how things is. Now you've reached that point wherein, okay, you understand this is where you are, this is who you are. Now the actualization is you are now is going to act upon what is it that you now deem to be important to you, or who it is that you say you are, right? So you are now going to activate that. So if you're a good person, if there is an attribute or characteristics about you, you now actualizing that by coming in alignment with that. So it's like synergy, right? So you're accepting that this is who you are, or this is what you're striving to be. So you've come back to the foundation and you're building up from there. And by building up from there and walking in alignment with your acceptance of what you've accepted or desire, it is you now actualizing that. And actualization is a really big one. And you see, I have here the organic or original thought, because that's when you now accept and you are now acting upon. Another one that I have is self-confidence. Now, you've gone through all these steps. You've now actualized and acting upon what is it that you say you want or desire, or who you say you are. Now is for you to no longer have a thought of what if, or is that person is going to say something, or... And I'm not saying that the self-confidence is entirely you not going to still questioning things, because you should always question things. But the self-confidence meaning that you have an understanding that what I am doing is something that you know that is right for you. So, or even if it's not entirely right, you're not 100%, but you're confidently asserting yourself to say, yes, I'm no longer swaying of whether or not I should go this way. I know that I should go this way. And the self-confidence plays a huge role. And so you see, I have here, it's a knowing beyond belief. I think that's a great place for everyone to come to, because the belief, while it's a great thing, it's a starting point, because you need, when you haven't been taught or you don't know, you start to question things, and that's where the belief or the faith comes in. But there is levels always beyond that. And that's where the knowing comes in, knowing beyond belief. when you're no longer saying whether or not it's like, oh hi, I've been. A lot of people they'll talk or they'll listen to gossip or they'll say one thing or the other, but they won't really go and do the research or try to clarify or to verify that what they are hearing or what they are now regurgitating or saying is actually solid and true. So they don't really have a solid or real knowing. They're just saying based on belief or faith. And that's what you call gossip and hearsay. But the knowing beyond belief, which is where you have that ultimate self-confidence comes in, is where you have the solid, concrete knowing that there's no swaying. It's 100%. It's not 99, it's not 97, it's not 99 and a half, 99.9.9. No, it's 100%. It's a knowing beyond belief that this is solid. That's the reason why when it comes down to you having a circle of friends or even a circle of thought, you need to, especially when you're trying to get to what is the financial freedom aspect of your life, you need to know beyond belief. The friends and the circles that you have, you will need to be 100% solid, at least in the things that matters. And let me just clarify that, in the things that matters when it comes to everyone else, because you won't be able to control everything that you're unable to or not able to control that are out of your hands, right? But for the main aspects, at least if you're having thoughts or people, their characteristic, those have to align with your purpose and your desires or where you're headed, the things that you want to achieve. Those are things that you have control of. If someone's hanging out with you and they don't have the same kind of characteristics, attribute, or the desire or the goals that you have, then obviously there going to be some kind of confusion there, and it's just going to make things harder. It's always easier to have people that desire and want the same thing as you. If not, there's going to be too much of a energy clashing, and that is just counterproductive. And so I also have some notes that I included as well. What I have here is, it's also emphasized in red. Who benefits from me believing this or that? These are some of the things that you have to ask yourself on a daily basis. Who is benefiting from me believing this or that? You always have to question things. You don't have to be necessarily difficult or rude about it, but you always have to ask yourself. You always have to ask yourself the question. And I'll say it again. You always have to ask yourself. You always have to ask yourself the question: who is benefiting from me believing this or that? And that you can apply that to just about every and anything. And see, now we're on the topic of financial freedom and you want to be financially stable. This is something you always have to have right in the back of your mind. Who is benefiting? Is it me? Is it a corporation? Is it someone else? You always have to ask yourself, who is benefiting from me believing this or that? And so that's the reason why I like to give examples that if you have a best friend, or if you consider yourself a best friend or a friend, and as a matter of fact, first of all, for you to be able to be a best or you can have best friend, right? But you have to think of it like this. You have to be friendly to be able to have friends, but at the same time, you have to have the characteristics or the attributes for it to be your best friend, such as someone else. So just always ask yourself a question like, if I have two best friends like these right here, there is no reason that someone else is going to come out of the blue There is no reason to let someone come from out of the blue, right? And tell you something and you're going to believe it without going to verify with said best friend. Because this random person or anyone else may not have the same good intentions or want the same thing as you. And even if what they're saying is correct, you still need to go verify. And I'm saying that to say you always need to verify. You always need to question. One last thing that I'd like to add to it is, this is my desired reality. This is something that you have to tell yourself, because oftentimes people project onto you what is it that they want for you, or what is it that they think you should have or deserve, want or need. And you always need to bring it back to yourself, because you are the one that is the main character of your life. So you need to always say to yourself, this is my desired reality. You need to put that into perspective. Most people will project onto you based on their life choices, life choices, right? Most people will project onto you based on their understanding, their life choices. Most people already make their choice, and you could be making a difference. And it all comes back to you. You need to always keep in your mind and tell yourself and ask yourself, is this the desired reality that I want? You ask yourself, and when you come to that knowing beyond belief, then you need to tell yourself, this is the desired reality that I need, that I want. This is what I desire. It's not what you want. It's not what you want. It's what I want. And so these are obviously basic things that you need to self-check. You always need to self-check, because you're the main character of your story. It's your life. So it always comes back to self. And that's the reason why I have self in red writing, is to emphasize that it always comes back to you and it always starts from you. I also have over here for each one the self-accountability of, it also entails who are you? And this is just an extension as a reminder, because it always comes back to self. Self-accountability, you always ask yourself, who are you? Because when you start taking the accountability for yourself, then you really have to ask yourself, who are you? Because a lot of people think they are this way, or they are that way, or they are this person, when in reality they are not. So it comes back to always asking yourself, who am I? Am I this way because of the music that I listen to, the TV shows that I watch, the people that I grew up around, or the people that I have around me? Is it the environment? You have to ask yourself, who am I, right? Who are you? All right, self-responsibility. I also have the why are you? Why are you? These are questions that seem very simple, but these are very fundamental questions that you have to ask yourself. Who are you? Why are you? You got to ask yourself, why? You could relate that to, why am I this way? Why do I like this? Why this? Why that? Simple questions. Start creating that foundation, creating that self-identity. Because the world can't and won't tell you who you are. It'll give you ideas of what it thinks or for what it wants for you, but you need to ask yourself, what is it that you want for you? And for you to find that, then you need to strip yourself down of all that you've been taught and build back up from there. Eventually, you will get to the point of where you said, okay, I've built myself back up and this is who I am. So then you can move forward from there. All right, self-discipline. I have how are you? How are you? Self-care. With that self-discipline also comes with self-care. So that means you no longer allow yourself to do just this or that. You are disciplined enough, which encompasses self-care, right? Discipline goes hand in hand with self-care. There's not much that I have to explain there. I also have right here self-thought, if necessary, financial literacy. Right next to that, I have wealth is my birthright. Now, a lot of these things you're not taught and they won't teach you. These are things that you have to teach yourself is necessary. Wealth is your birthright. You are not made to work a 9 to 5 at some jobs that you don't really like, getting the pay that barely can take care of you or your family. You're not supposed to be struggling. It makes no sense. So you have to come to the realization and understand that wealth in terms of the physical aspect of life. This is your birthright. The money is printed. There is no lack or there is no limits to it. Anything in terms of the physical aspect of life, there is no reason for you to be lacking of it. And it's something that you have to remind yourself so you don't accept what everyone else is accepting. Yes, you were born into it just like everyone else, but you need and have to come to that point where you understand that no, there is something not right about this, and it's not. It's just like your job or your boss won't and will never pay you enough for you to leave that job because they always want to keep you on a rotation or breadcrumbing you, so you always keep coming back. You get paid enough to pay your bills, to eat food, transportation, but not enough to where you say, okay, I no longer need this job. You have to work that job for your entire life. Or you make a plan, leave the job, go elsewhere to another or a better job, do the same thing or not a better job, or you get to the point of where you start creating for yourself. Because you have to come to the understanding that this is your birthright. There's no reason that you should be working 9 to 5, and for most people, majority of people, way more than that 9 to 5. In order for you to make ends meet, a lot of people is working 15, 16 hours. Shouldn't have to be doing that. All right, last but not least, I have a note here as well that says you become like that of who or what you spend the most time with. And my theme, as you can see, is self. Now, at first, you need to understand that you gotta always come back to self. This is where it starts. That's the person who you spend most of your time with, right? All of the time with, as a matter of fact. So if you should blame anyone, you gotta first start from yourself. You gotta self-evaluate. Start from there. And then you work your way out. And I know this sounds like it can be easy, because it's really not. It takes a lot of work, especially if you grew up in an environment and around a lot of people where everyone accepts their certain way of life to be the norm. For you to start self-evaluate and self-check and making changes, everyone might see you differently and they might not accept you. Or even beyond that, they might not understand the changes that you are going through. Even if it's you starting to see yourself in a different light, you starting to shed certain characteristic attributes and things that you've taken on. A lot of it through fault of your not of your own, but nevertheless, you've reached and you've arrived at the point where you are now taking that self-check, that self-accountability. It's you now, your responsibility. You're making the changes. You have to understand that not everyone is going to understand. Not everyone is going to accept you. In fact, you might get a lot of hate for it, out of ignorance, because they might say that you are moving differently. You think you're better than them, or it could be a variety or a multitude of things that they might say. However, it kind of always comes back to you. You need to understand this is your life at the end of the day. And you're making the choices to better your life. So once again, these were basics leading up to having a better financially stable and a freedom of life. These are the basics. Now I will get into other things as I build up, or increments where financial stability and freedom is concerned. But this is a good point to start from, where it comes down to self. Because if you don't start from that, even if you somehow come into some kind of a financial wealth, or one thing or the other, you are going to need to have some kind of a self-discipline, some kind of a self-knowledge, the accountability, the responsibility. You're going to need to have something that has to do with yourself in order for you to maintain that, right? Because even if you get it, you may squander it. You might not know the real benefit of it, because even if you don't work for it and you somehow come into it, you're not going to really know the true worth of it, because you don't really work for it. Or you don't really have the real characteristics to understand what really needs to be done with that money. Either for you to reinvest it, save it, put it to good use, or give people who are actually deserving of it. It always comes back to self. And I just wanted to start from the basics of where it comes back to you, because it always comes back to you as a person. A lot of people have money, they have wealth, and not everyone does the right thing with it. And if the path that you want to take is to be able to have better so you can do better and help others that are in need, then you need to start from self. And that's the reason why I start from there. Self. Thank you for joining me once again. No, don't forget to comment, because I need to know what you guys think of my train of thought, or this kind of content. Leave your comments and let me know what you think. Don't forget to comment. One thing that I always say is to comment. That is one way that I'll be able to interact with you guys. I'll be able to make content tailored to things that you guys want to see or things that you guys like. Now, the next thing to do, if you're already subscribed, is to like the video. These are things that the algorithm like, and if you want to see more content like this, simply like the video. It's an easy thing to do. All you have to do is tap that like button. It takes away nothing from you. Simply tap the like button. I appreciate you guys for doing that in advance, and I'll respond to your comments accordingly. Thank you for joining me once again. This was a lesson based on financial freedom. It's a place that you want to get. It's a place that we all want to get, and you might as well start from self. If you have a good foundation, then you won't squander it once you get it.